Yo yo yo, what is up everyone? I am Solar Wolf, your favorite android, and welcome to Solar Wolf's Fairy Garden Worlds. So, this morning I was feeling a bit inspired to do some stuff, and so I decided I was going to make us a neat little fairy garden. So I started, of course, obviously, by selecting some colors from my polymer clay or oven-baked clay. I will go over what they were baked at and things like that here as it gets to that portion of the video. But I started with this kind of a green-gray color to make the cap of the mushroom. Because we are building all of the fairy garden. It's not just the fairy garden itself that we're putting together, we're also building all of the pieces for it. So, we just softly started working on, of course, this little mushroom that's going to be in our little fairy garden world. And the backstory behind these fairy garden worlds is that in a world alongside of our own, in a universe that is parallel to ours, fairies exist. They're just very, very tiny. So small, in some cases you can't even see them. At least we can't at our size. I decided to take some lighter gray clay for the bottom portion of this little mushroom. And I took some white, and I decided to mix that together as well to lighten it up just a little bit. I just wanted it a little bit lighter. Now this mushroom is made out of stone, according to lore. Because in the fairies universe, of course, they don't have the same kind of physics we do. They have things that come and grow from stone. Not just crystals, but mushrooms and trees and other things. Things of true fancy. But, I digress. I decided that I was going to use my flat paddle to give it shape so that this little mushroom would, have a nice little fat round base. And once the base was done, I decided to make a small indentation with one of my clay working tools. This is a silicone tipped cone piece, cone tool, so that you can do exactly what I'm doing and make divots and larger holes and things. We then just stick the cap on like this. I had to go locate a tool for a moment, guys, because we wanted to make certain that we get everything patted down so that we get everything, melded together. This is a technique with clay so that it melds the clay together and allows it to stay as one solid piece when it bakes. Whether it be in a kiln or, in this case, an oven. There's also air dry clay, which takes about 24 hours to dry, which we will do some things with that as well. I will also show you guys some things that I've made that I will make with epoxy and other things, so we'll have a lot of fun, guys. I do want to make the announcement that we are changing pace a bit. We're going to be doing so many video games, most of them like the first-person horror games, that we can't find anything that scares me, so I'm giving up. But we are going to stick with Hollow Knight. When Silk Song comes out, we'll definitely be doing that as well. But we're going to be moving more towards crafting for all of these little dioramas and things. I just kind of feel inspired to do something more hobby-based instead of gaming, which it's already flooded on YouTube for gaming, so that's just a thing. But as you can see, I'm putting the little ridge work into it. We then flip this piece around and start doing a bunch of little dots, because of course, it's a mushroom, it's gotta have its spots. Now none of these are painted, as I did use colored polymer clay. But back to this story of the fairies and why things tend to grow out of stone. Magic is abundant there. They're fairies. What do you expect? Fairies can pretty much make anything they want happen. And that was the mushroom done. I then started working on mixing some greens and whites and other colors to get some bush looking colors, which unfortunately at first did not work out well. So I did have to do a bit of, color palette mixing and things like that. Mixed a bit of orange in with this rather bright green that's a kind of a bright blue green. So I mixed some orange into it to get it to tone down into a more olive color, a more bush-like color, because at the moment I don't have any specific greens of the color that I had wanted. So I just mixed colors until I got the color that I was hoping for. As you can see, it takes time. And there was our little bush. Now with the bush, you'll notice, guys, that I'm going to be doing something different with it. For now, we're going to be working on, this is a little bridge. Because, fairy gardens always have little bridges in them. Got to keep the fairies from getting their feet wet. They can fly, but, that's beside the point. So I use my clay roller. And, of course, polymer clay will stick to just about anything if you're not careful. So I use my flat paddle to, get it picked up off of the table. It was a small crack in it, which I did my best to repair, but later on becomes just part of the design of it. I select the wrong tool a few times, so I apologize for that. And then I decided to start cutting. And I wanted to make certain that I had, a nice bridge size to go along with, the scale of the small mushroom and the small bush and the tree that was actually something I had made previous. As I had made it to go inside of one of my tarantula enclosures, and that tarantula has since been moved. So she's now got a new home. I will keep you guys up to date with those as well, and show you guys those. So now we have the basic, flat shape that we need, the basic rectangle of what will become the bridge. I will put a pattern work into it as well, because I want it to look like it's a stone brick, or like a really mossy stone brick. You can see here I smooth it out just a little bit, just to make certain it's smooth the way it should be. And then we lay in gently the lining that will be the stone brickwork. Now I really enjoy making these, you guys, and this is actually something I've done as a hobby for a very long time. Same thing with like dioramas and displays and things. As you guys know, with all the different Legos and stuff that I've built, I obviously very much so enjoy it. And so that's a thing. Here you'll see that I'm cutting strips of this kind of a medium gray color. This is going to be the pillar pieces for the bridge. I have a lot of fun with this, you guys, and so I'm really glad that I can share this hobby with you guys. Also, with the current Shopify, I want to let you know that here soon there is a Shopify now attached to the channel. Currently it has one song, Deep Blue Eyes, for sale. So that is a thing, you can actually buy that specific song. And here in the next couple of weeks there will be a bunch of handmade by me little fairy garden kits that will be going up for you guys, so that you guys can make your own. It will include 5 miniatures that can vary from anything from buildings to little tiny mushrooms, little bushes, things like that. It will come with some kind of ground cover basing. It will come with some small polished stones for things like riverbeds and, you know, rock barriers, things like that. It will also come with a piece of foam so that you can use that as your base. And it will come with a certificate of authenticity, as well as it will be numbered. Since they will be all handcrafted and individually made, each kit will be different. They won't always include the same thing, and they won't always be the same color. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. Those will be going up in the next couple of weeks. You can see here on each one of the pillar pieces that I notch it out to go onto the bridge piece. And then that was pretty much the end of that. We got that one taken care of. So this is making the bush the rest of the way. As you can see, I took that kind of a darker olive green that we had made earlier and started mixing it with this lighter green. And once we get the color consistency that we wanted here, we then proceed to make the bush. Now the thing about the fairies that come from this specific universe is that despite being as small as they are, they can take on dragons. It's a fairy world. You don't think there aren't dragons there, do you? Because there are absolutely dragons. I did go through the selection of a bunch of different tools before I chose this specific tool. This is a triangle tip or angled tip that is not curved, it's a straight tip. And so what I did was I took it at a diagonal and slowly started pulling just small spots downwards, and it gives this really nice kind of leafy pattern to it. And for miniature scale, that is something that just really looks good. So that is our bush. Now, the other thing about the fairies of these worlds is they are not run by a fairy king, which is normal in our world's fairies. Our world's fairies tend to have a fairy king. The ones from that world have a fairy goddess. Huge difference. Because that means that, according to the lore of that universe, our Fairy Gardens world's universe, that they are blessed by a deity, not an after effect of magic, which, unfortunately, in our world, if you have fairies in your home, it means you've been practicing witchcraft a bit too much in the negative. Because that's how you get them. And fairies are not a good thing to have in your home in our world. However, having them in your home in that universe, in our Fairy Gardens universe, is definitely a difference. Huge difference. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making a small cave. And you can see I'm starting by making what looks like a small stone. I gently flatten it out a bit and give it a more cave-like shape. It still kind of looks like a block. But, you know, everything starts somewhere. And then stay tuned at the end of the video, guys, for some shout-outs. And we'll make certain to throw some shout-outs to you guys for being there for so long. Here, what I'm doing is I'm just laying out the lining of where exactly I think that I'm going to be doing the cave opening, where I want the cave opening. So this is just me marking out exactly where I want it. And then I will switch tools to carve it out to a curved wire and a looped wire end so that I can just scoop it out real quick. That's me putting some detail up at the top. But, I lost track of what I was saying. Hold on, guys. Okay. So, in the middle of doing a voiceover, my monitor decided to turn off go to sleep mode, which is stupid since I have that turned off and it still does it anyways. But what you can see here, guys, is I'm slowly scooping it out with the hooked wire or curved wire tool for clay. And you see I'm saving each piece as a separate piece instead of mixing them together, and you'll see why in just a moment. But the lore with this cave is this is a very, very special cave. This is not just any cave, this is the Goblin Cave. So big shout out to Shut Your Gob, because the Goblin Cave is his. And so he is our resident Goblin King in the Fairylands. And all of the tribes of goblins are good in our worlds. So, there you go. I'd also like, while I'm sitting here doing this, I'd also like to throw a quick shout out to Blazing Fire, to Moonfox Gamer Girl. I would like to throw a huge shout out to Boylai Hobby Time, who has helped to get me back inspired into my hobbies. I appreciate that an awful lot, and I really suggest you guys go check him out. If you really like dioramas and stuff, I really suggest you check him out. You'll find that I will leave a link to his channel and content in the description below. Same for anyone else that I'm throwing a shout out to. I also want to throw a huge shout out to my editor. I totally appreciate you so much, girly. You're amazing. And so this is why I was saving those small pieces, as they are to be small rocks on either end of the cave. Now this cave is at the end of a dry creek bed, and so this is prepped for baking and after baking. So this is after they're already baked. As you can see, they look very solid, and they really are very, very solid. You could drop these on the floor and they'd probably break before they'd do anything else. They are made from polymer clay after all. So that is that. And now for the fun part. Let's put it all together. And we will do so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this little fairy garden is actually on the outskirts of a fairy city. And not like any major fairy city where, you know, all the higher up peoples exist. And just a city on, you know, the coastline. And this is just a small little outskirt on the inside of the mainland. As you can see, I'm using a type of moss here. I'm using sphagnum moss for the base, because sphagnum moss makes a really good fairy garden base for something that would be considered an outpost or things. In this case, it's really just a bridge across a dry creek bed and the Goblin Cave, because these would be goblin lands. Here I'm laying out, so what I'm using here is some clear washable Elmer's glue. And the reason I choose washable is because I have a tendency, if I get glue on my hands, to just quickly wipe them on my pants. So I choose washable so that I can wash it off. I will show you guys what I do with things like super glue and things like that in later episodes, as well as in diorama episodes and things. But as you can see, I'm just laying out the small stones. Once those were done, I decided to lay the Goblin Cave down. And as you can see, I just a small bit right around the base of it, and then we put it over. I had off camera, I had carved out a small hole that leads downwards, you know, to make the makeshift of a Goblin Cave that goes down under the ground. And inside this Goblin Cave resides the Goblin King Rob and his loyal subjects within the Goblin Horde. These goblins are absolutely amazing, wonderful people. They take care of the fairies and guard them from other nasties that may come along. The fairies in turn have built a bridge across the dry creek bed so as to not disturb it, as it tends to be where they tend to hunt and gather things that they need for tools. So the fairies don't wish to disturb this. Over the course of time, they have developed a huge relationship of back and forth. They also have interspecies marriages, things of that nature. So the fairies and goblins of this world have very much so become accustomed to each other and have gone out of their way to become what would be considered a group of peoples. They have always been very kind to the fairies, and in turn the fairies have always been very kind with them. They share resources all the time, and sometimes the goblins will even bring them hunted things so that they have more than just the fruits and vegetation that they normally would otherwise have. I took a piece from a plant. I had a long viney plant for a lizard display that, unfortunately, years ago the lizard had died. But I still had a lot of this stuff for his display, and so I took a piece of that and stuck it in, glued it down. It wouldn't go in, so I did have to use my Dremel. No, bless me. Oof, allergy season here, guys. Oof. Anyhow, so I drilled a small hole down into the styrofoam with my Dremel tool. And then, as you can see, I little bit of glue down into the hole and just kind of set it in. Moved some of the sphagnum moss around to it. But in this fairy world, with the goblins and fairies working together, things are very profitable. Everyone seems to have a very comfortable life, both goblin and fairy kind. And there are other creatures here too. There are trolls, there are ogres and orcs and dragons and things, which I will start to show you guys in some dioramas and things later on, as we are going to be building this world a lot. One fairy garden and one diorama at a time. So I hope you guys are ready for that. I then set the bridge across the creek. I had been looking for an area where it was going to sit, and so I decided on that spot there. I then proceeded to glue down the small mushroom, because we want to make certain that that stays put. Now, the reason I chose to use Elmer's glue was for two reasons. One, I was out of super glue. Go figure. I was out of my foam safe super glue. But I was also out of all of my glues. It wasn't just my super glue. I was pretty much out of everything but that and wood glue. And wood glue wouldn't have done anything for this project, as I'm not working with wood. And so I chose to use washable white Elmer's crafting glue. And it is crafting glue. It's not school glue. It's crafting glue. It's meant for crafts and things. It's not just standard Elmer's. In fact, I don't own any standard Elmer's glues, to be honest. We then proceed to glue down our little bush, and I debated on where to put it for a little bit, and I decided on this one little spot, just because it tended to look good because of the ground base being slightly darker than it. And then we put down this one little tree. Now, the story behind this palm tree is it was given up by a spider. It was given as a gift to the Goblin King by a giant tarantula who he helped save from a rather precarious predicament as it hung by one strand from a cliff face. Good thing Rob the Goblin King carries a net. Anyhow, guys, I apologize for the brilliance of that lighting. I did not have my lighting set up well. I didn't have my tripod for that. But that would be it, guys. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I know I did. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Expect more. And once again, I love your faces, guys, and we'll see you in the next amazing streamer video. Bye!